Hey everybody, I'm Kent Davis with Panama Equity Real Estate. Today I'm going to be covering the topic of Panama real estate for sale. Kind of a very broad topic, but the idea is to give you some sense about what's different in Panama versus what you might be used to in the US, Canada, or Europe. So first things first, we are on the metric system. Canadians, Europeans can probably get that very quickly. Americans, it's times 10.8. So if you see something that is 100 meters, it's going to be about 1,080 square feet. I used to do times 11. It's a little easier, so we'll call it 1,100 square feet. Now, about that measurement in Panama, you are not going to include, well, actually in Panama, you are going to include pretty much everything in the property, including balconies for homes. That's a total construction size, so that's going to include all of the cement outside, things like pool area, garage. So if you see a 700 meter property, it might only be 300 to 400 meters inside. So as far as transactions go, typically it's 10% down to engage a seller with a promise to purchase agreement. That 10%, which is negotiable, but 10% is sort of the standard when you're buying from a private seller. 10% is going to go directly to the seller. And then you will have a certain period of time to review all of the due diligence documents, mostly pasisalvos, which are good standing certificates saying, hey, I've paid up my homeowners association, I'm the seller. I've paid up my power bill, my water bill, my taxes. So in Panama, the taxes are going to be on a real estate transaction paid by the seller. Same thing with commissions. So taxes are, as a rule of thumb, about 5% of the value. So 100,000, 5,000, seller pays those in advance, shows that they have been paid. That is a part of the information that gets sent over to the buyer's side. You're going to want to have an attorney on either side. You know, as the real estate agent, it's our job to basically, we call it herding cats here at Panama Equity. We're quarterbacking the deal. So we are following up with lawyers. We're following up with bankers. We're following up with the government just to make sure that everything moves smoothly. So you're going to get all that information from the seller. Myself, your attorney, and you self will be reviewing it to make sure everything is in good standing. And then you go to the public registry. You either pay with a notarized check, or what you can do is offer an instrument, which is, in this case, a carta de promesa de pago, which is basically an irrevocable letter of payment from your bank, freezing the money, the balance. It's kind of like an escrow letter, freezing the balance. That then gets conveyed to the seller once the property is in your name. So that's another interesting thing about Panama is the seller actually conveys the property and then gets paid. A little bit of trust there, but it's been working for what, 100 years? So yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. So as far as the real estate market today, we've got other videos on that in terms of prices up, prices down, where to buy, when to sell, all that good stuff. I'm going to speak in very general terms. So Panama City, if you're looking at, I should say Panama, if you're looking at it from a 10,000 foot view and trying to decide sort of where you want to be, you've got three general regions, let's call it. The city, which is mostly going to be Panama City, although we've got some secondary cities like Santiago, like Chitre, like David. That's city. That is everything good and everything bad about city. Some parts of Panama City are walkable. Some are supposed to be walkable but aren't. And others are, you're going to have a car or Uber. It's very easy to get around in Uber here in Panama. Same thing with just regular taxis. So, you know, you've got the city region and then you've got the beaches region, but you've got a big stretch along the Pacific coast and you've also got a few little pockets along the Atlantic coast. Differences being Pacific is generally more accessible, generally more developed, and generally more populated. Now, Bocas del Toro is an exception in terms of population. It's actually quite dense when you get really within the main islands there. Bocas is right on the border of Costa Rica on our Atlantic side or Caribbean. And then you've got also the Colón coast, Costa Arriba, Costa Abajo, not as populated. Beautiful beaches up there. There's some really, really pretty marinas, Linton Bay being one of them. Yeah, there's just some really nice areas up in Colón. Now, Colón proper, not so nice. You don't want to be living in Colón unless you are a merchant or a mercenary for the time being. But yeah, Colón it's, what do real estate people say? Up and coming. It's going to be a while though. We love Colón. It's a jewel, but it's a little rusty right now. But okay, so Panama City, beaches, Pacific for the most part, Caribbean a little bit, and then you've got the mountains areas. So you've got mountain communities really spread out throughout the country. If you're looking at an area where you want to be close to Panama City but up in the mountains, you're going to want to be in either Altos del Maria or El Valle, and we've done a lot of videos on that. We're going to do some more in-person videos from those areas here shortly, but what you need to know is they're both about an hour and a half to 2 hours drive to Panama City. They're both about a half an hour drive down to the beach. And they're both really cool. Like literally, it's nice temperature up there. Now, nice is relative. I would say it's anywhere from about, on average, mid 70s up to high 80s. You know, it can get hot up there sometimes, but for the most part, it's cooler because you're at elevation. Also, Boquete. So Boquete is in a different province. We have some great relationships with realtors in Boquete, but we don't handle that area. Boquete is very nice though. I visited, it's totally worth visiting. If you're thinking mountain communities, you gotta check it out because you can't decide on a mountain community without seeing them. Boquete is a lot more developed than Altos, about as developed as El Valle. There's a lot more expats in Boquete than there are in El Valle. So that's kind of an overview of the regions in Panama. Also a little bit of a summary about a transaction in Panama. Now let's talk about shopping in Panama for real estate. So we have an MLS. It's not quite as robust as we'd like it to be. I would say it probably represents about 20% of the listings right now. The other 80%, and really for that matter, almost 100% of the listings are going to be available online through different real estate portals. Of course, you know, our site currently has about 500 listings throughout the country. Those tend to be either sellers we're working directly with or developers who have engaged us to promote their properties. But when you work with us, we'll show you what you want to see. You're certainly not limited to anything on our website. We just get so much traffic. We want to make sure to, you know, promote our sellers listings in that point. But as a buyer, of course, you are never limited to what your agent has for sale, because if your agent's good, he's going to have relationships with everyone around town, not going to have any black flags or, you know, red labeled with any agencies, black labeled, I should say. Obviously, you don't have to worry about that with us. We work with everybody. We don't work with everybody, I should say. Some people we prefer based on experience, mostly developers. A few small guys we just stopped working with because they can't deliver. But that's for another video. So as far as shopping for real estate, online's a great way. Definitely engage an agent. Sometimes there are unlisted properties, maybe some rentals that are going to be available for sale after the tenant is gone. Don't hit the market. Maybe there's some off-market listings, but for the most part, the real estate market is pretty, I don't want to say transparent, because a lot of times there are old listings, there are duplicate listings. I should say that exclusive listings, I couldn't even think of the word, exclusive listings are actually not that common here. So don't be surprised to see the same property listed by 2 or 3 different agents. And sometimes it's at a different price. Yeah, I know. Obviously, if it's on our site, 99% of the time it's going to be updated to the minute. As soon as the seller informs us that the property has either lowered or raised the price, we're going to get in there and fix it. Some agents leave a lower price on because it's kind of a bait and switch type thing. Hey, that one is or not available, but I've got something else you might like. Old trick, time waster. Be careful with those kind of people. You know, anybody that's sloppy in that sense, you might not want them handling your transaction. But I don't want to speak poorly of the competition. It's just a business culture thing. You know, a lot of this information is also contained in an article I wrote a long time ago, about 13 years ago, called Blood on the Streets. You can have a look at it in the future. But in the meantime, make sure to like and subscribe, because we do a lot of these videos. Sometimes we're doing them on the street. Sometimes we're doing them in the office. So thanks for watching. Happy to answer all of your questions. Have a great day. Bye-bye.